Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about the Grey Knights and Nemesis Dreadknight build, and essentially how I'm going to alter it so that I can pose it in a slightly more dynamic way. However, to get started, I'm going to be just going through some of the bits and pieces that need to be built up, which I'm not going to be cutting or changing. So essentially, I'm going to build the arms as is, build the main torso as is, and a couple of other bits. So I'm going to start off with the torso, and as per usual, I have built everything up prior to assembly, and as usual I will be using EMA Plastic World as my glue of choice. So starting with the torso, I'm just adding in the side plates. Now these have little locating holes for these keyed parts, so it's important to get them in position, otherwise it won't fit properly when you add in the other half of the torso, basically the front of the torso. Let's have a look at the legs. So the legs come in 4 main parts. Let's move this foot out of the way. I will come on to the feet in just a second. So you've got left and right part of the leg, and then you have a piston and the step system for the Terminator's legs. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just trim this piece off. So the reason being is that we are going to reposition this and just level it up, flatten it off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the base of the bit that the Terminator legs slot into, and when it's on the model it'll be upright like so. That just goes in there. Right, next thing. The next thing is this piston. You need to remove this pipe, and the reason you need to remove the pipe is because when you are repositioning the legs, it will not meet properly where it's supposed to on the underneath of the machine here. So it's supposed to marry up into these two little recessed areas, and it would marry up like so, basically going in there. So once you've done that, the legs can go together. Now be sure to make sure that you get this the right way round. So the top of the piston goes towards the top of the leg, And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pop in the foot slide. And then just marry up the legs as usual. Now there is a gap which I will just expand here to make it easier to put the plastic weld into. Like thus. And then just a little bit down the back. So that's your leg assembly done. Now when you put these on the model, this foot plate, it needs to point inwards. So I've already done the other leg. So they would, if the front of the model was towards the top there, those foot plates would point inwards like that. Feet. Now, the feet when done are three-toed and a heel like so. Now my left foot is going to be forward and my right foot is going to be back, as if it's going to be a step forward. So the toe comes in two halves, and what I've done is, whilst it's in halves, I've removed the toe from the front basically, and I've then trimmed away some plastic so that it will allow my foot to be slightly bent, the toe slightly bent and the heel raised off the ground, as if it's going to be stepping forward, as I say. So now it's easier to start with the feet in the position that you want them, because then you can pose the stride as if the model is stepping into a swing from there. Now there are some little nubs just there which locate the other toes, the left and right toe on the foot. Okay, and that's that. So my foot is going to look something like it's stepping forward, and so this middle toe will be bent, the other two toes will be just touching, and the heel will be raised off the floor. The front toe, where I've trimmed it, I've hollowed and thinned out the plastic as much as possible so that I can get the best fit on the front of the foot. And if we do that, so when this is on, you will have the toe flat on the floor, but the foot will be raised slightly. So I may need to use a little bit of filler to just fill the gap, but it will look something like that on the base plate. A couple of things you need to be aware of because you'll have one leg striding forward and one leg back, and what that's going to do is it's going to shorten this leg for the Terminator. So what will have to happen is you will just need to trim a little bit of leg away, and you also have to just reposition them slightly in order to make sure you get the dynamic step through. Otherwise it will look out of place. So hopefully in the next little section we'll start putting this together. Right, the first thing I am going to do is position the feet, because it's easier to build these models from the ground up when you're seeking to try and get a better pose. From there you can decide how your figure will sit on the base itself, and I think that will be the position for this foot. So that's going to be where I'm going to position the first toe, and then because we're raising it slightly, I'm going to position this one like that, and just use the edge of the other toes to secure it to the base. And what I will do is pop something underneath to help keep it in position, like so, and just let that dry. Now, here we go, next bit. What I've done is, I haven't glued this, but what I've done is I have drilled some 0.75 holes in the locating lugs that we clipped off the tops of the legs and glued into the centre part of the Dreadknight. This is the bit where the Terminator legs go. I've then drilled holes in each of the tops of the legs there, and I can locate these legs in position like so. This will then allow me to pop that on the base, and it allows a certain amount of movement for me to be able to position this how I would like. And so they're stepping forward, there's a slight lean forward, and that's how I'm going to glue this. So glue, glue, and even there you can see that's pretty much done. So I'm going to leave that to set and then come back, and I can then sort out the Terminator legs and the positioning of the foot plates to even it up. Okay, so we need to do a little bit of jiggery pokery now with the Terminator legs, and what I have done is I have cut the legs from its groin area, and then I've just stuck the groin area into the recess where it's supposed to go. The right right leg, I have trimmed it off simply because it needs to just be rotated slightly so that the toe points the same way as the toe on the miniature, on the warsuit. And I will literally just glue that back into place like thus. Once that's done, I need to play around with the left leg. Now the left leg I have cut into two. What I did was, as with the right leg, obviously we've got the flexible armour joint here, and I just cut that away because I'm going to try, it's going to be slightly different to what I did last time, but I'm going to try making it so that I have a bent knee, because it needs to go here like thus. Now what I've also done is the foot support, which is on the leg, I've cut, and I will just alter the position of that so as it's slightly lower. It gives me a little bit more room to be flexible. So this first one I am just going to glue into position. Next few bits that I'm going to do is I'm going to glue some pieces into the torso. So this is the base of the torso. It does allow a little bit of posability. It's not great, but it allows some. The next thing I'm going to glue into this bit is the Terminator torso. And the reason I'm going to glue that in is it just would be a bit awkward, because it actually, the venting on the power pack at the back has to go into a recess on the model, which would be a bit of a nuisance. So that's what I've done on there. The other thing is I will now glue the power pack on properly. And that just glues on like so. Let's talk about arms. So arms will go into the sockets, and they can be more or less positioned any way you like, but you can't, simply because the hydraulics that operate the arms have a limited range of movement. So when you, in actual fact, what I will show you is on the original piece. Can you see there's a locating lug in there, and then in the top of the shoulder there's a groove, and that locating lug goes in there, which basically means that this will only go up and down. You cannot rotate it, which is a nuisance. So that needs to come off, because you're going to be dynamically posing the arms. You need better movement. So your arms go into the torso, and I find it best to try and position it like thus. And that's probably going to be your arm torso location, and then click in your shoulder hydraulics. And the way this is going to work is locate it how you want your arm to be. So mine's come back for a slight swing. that's that. I'm going to put some glue into there. So with the arm in place, like so, what I did was, once this was glued into position, it becomes easier to then deal with these parts. So I positioned my arm how I wanted it, popped in some glue into the rotational joint there, and then just some glue into that one. The next one I'm going to do is the left side. Again, same procedure. All that's going to happen is I'm going to pop in the power couplings, and this one's slightly different, and I'm going to do it slightly different now. This guy is going to have his arm forward slightly, and the way I'm going to do that is like so, and that's the position I'm going to start gluing in. So this top one will be glued first, then I will add in some glue there, and then I'm not going to glue this in there, but what I am going to do, if I take the torso back off, is I'm going to glue the weapon arm in position. And the reason I'm not gluing here is because I want to be able to swap the weapons, and unfortunately you can only swap the weapons complete. So for me to be able to swap this particular weapon, I would need, I can't glue it here and I can't glue it underneath, so that basically I can use the pressure from the posed model where these items are to keep it in place. So like I said earlier, I can have two weapon systems made up. I've gone for the incinerator, and I'm kind of maybe going for the Gatling silencer. But in order to be able to hot swap those out, and I will show you how. So it's kind of like a ball and socket joint underneath. There'll be a ball and socket joint there, so I can take it out, swap it over, and basically then pop it back into position in order to swap out the weapon system. There's only a few little things left to do now. One thing I have done is I've made up the Nemesis Great Hammer that I can hot swap into the right hand, should I so wish, or just have the great sword. I have also obviously glued torso into position, so currently we're looking at this. I'm not going to glue any of the armour panels on, as I said previously. I'm able to hot swap the weapons, so the incinerator there and the Gatling silencer, I think it is, I can literally, she said, drop that into position like so. So I can swap that out. That's not a major drama. So literally, yeah, I've just not glued this in like so. So there you go. That's it. That's as far as the build is going prior to painting. So we've got all the sub-assemblies that we're doing. The Prometheum hands, Terminator arms, we've got the weapons, and the armour plating is separate. I'm going to keep some on the sprue. I'm not too sure why I clipped those off. I should have kept it on the sprue for easier painting. But it's all going to get a rattle can of black and then painted the appropriate colour. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.